Okie dokie, Manhood Academy podcast. This is for lay conversations, part 2. Let's hit it.
And you only had a pint of ice cream.
Okay, so basically, setup here is still blabbering with this chick who's pretty much retarded, and I'm asking her about a desert island scenario. For what reason, I have no idea, but let's see what she has to say.
A circus seal.
Okay, so I'm giving her a bunch of random crazy objects to play with, a circus seal, a pencil, something else. And she's basically supposed to figure out what to do with these things while she's on a desert island. This isn't a test, this is just something stupid I came up with on the spot, so don't think this is some established cool routine to do. I think it's actually pretty retarded just watching it right now.
And a pencil. What would you do to survive?
Circus wheel.
Circus seal.
Circus wheel? No, a circus seal, retard. Anyway, this is so embarrassing to even watch. It just makes me cringe because it's so stupid. But this just gives you an idea of what you could say, what you could get away with when you're just leading the conversation. You don't have to say anything particularly cool.
Seal. Alright. I guess I would eat the circus seal. I would...
Okay.
Like when you're saying circus seal, I want you to go like this.
So she's going to eat the circus seal. Anyway, I'm just kind of getting bored with her answer, so I'm correcting her and telling her how I want to do things. I'm basically just stating my expectations, showing disapproval when she's not doing it right, and showing her exactly how I want it done. I'm demonstrating for her how I want her to answer.
I guess I would, like your, like the,
Okay.
try to go ahead. You would do what?
I guess I
See? I
would...
like that.
Okay, so basically I showed her that when I want her to say something, I want her to put her hand by her head like she's thinking, what should I say? And when she does it, I show approval. I act all enthusiastic. Oh, see, that's exactly what I wanted. And she's laughing. She's, I'm getting validated. I'm getting approved of by this guy. I like it, etc. So this just shows how to meet your expectations. I'm applying pleasure here.
Perfect. You got it. Keep going. Keep going.
I guess I would eat the circus seal. Use the wood.
Okay, so now she's trying to be funny and participate a little bit more. Show she's opening up. She's starting to have a little fun with this. So it's showing that she's responding to the disapproval and the approval, the pain and the pleasure being applied. So she's having a good response now.
Pencil for fire.
So you're going to eat the baby circus seal raw? You are a dangerous
It's
person.
the way to live on a desert island.
I guess if you're hungry, that's
The rubber ball would be used.
I like this too. See, now you're free flowing. Look at this. Now you're a Mac 10. Oh, la la, the rubber ball. La la la. Perfect. Keep going.
For,
Pick your nose during the interview. We can't have nose over on there. Keep going.
the rubber ball would be used
For
to...
playtime when you want to have time.
Okay, so she's being super slow and I'm being super bored, so I'm just answering for her or interrupting her and saying, yeah, I like the way you're thinking about this or that, trying to show her some approval. But, again, she's going too slow, so it's okay to interrupt her. It's okay to just tease her at the same time while she's talking. There's no set script you have to follow here. Let's
Yeah, I
see.
guess it would have to be placed
And
with.
pencil
Pencil is for fire. To rub against sticks.
that don't exist.
To rub against, rocks. If you're on an island, there's gonna be, rocks and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Let's
Last
go.
question, Rachel.
Okay.
Rachel, I find that some cities are...
Okay, so now I'm at the end of my question and answer period, and I'm asking her one last stupid question. I'm just basically trying to make something up, and I come up with this gay thing about what cities are the most romantic cities, and it's just listening to it sounds really stupid, but let's hear where I go with this.
characterized by their people. Like, for instance, we're in a particularly snobby city. People are stuck up. It's a total turn off the guys who are like, I don't like that, I don't like that.
Okay, so while I'm talking about the scenario setup, I am basically also talking about what I like about girls and what I don't like about girls. So I'm stating my expectations for what I like about women. I don't like stuck-up snobby women. I like this kind of girl. So I'm using this just as an opportunity to state my expectations.
And they're just really, snotty. I like girls who are like enthusiastic, who can express how they feel and be genuine, who aren't using a lot of sarcasm and Snyder marks, right? But are just really like open, honest.
And I've said like about 5,000 times, which is pretty gay, but anyway, keep going.
Down to earth. I find that's like the sexiest thing. What do you feel is like?
Okay, come on, get on with it.
Well, I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved here about
Oh my gosh, you're from St. Louis, Missouri?
Yeah.
When a guy puts his hand out like that.
Okay, so I say, oh my gosh, you're from St. Louis, Missouri. And if she was a normal girl with a brain, she would have said, oh my gosh, you're from St. Louis, Missouri too, taking that to mean I was from there. And I would have said, no, I'm not. But she just kind of stares at my hand. I stick it out there. So it's not meeting my expectations again. I expect her to be all excited and enthusiastic, but she's not. So I have to apply pain. I have to show disapproval. I have to say, look, this is not how you do it. If somebody puts out their hand, you don't leave them hanging. You're supposed to do something. Okay, so I'm basically just showing she's not meeting my expectations, applying pain, showing disapproval.
Because then I feel like emotionally challenged. I feel like I'm sad. I'm here.
Okay.
You rescue. Let's here, watch. Put your hand up here. Like, look it.
Okay, so I think that is the end of that
Here's
video.
me getting all scared.
Still going.
Just sitting here out in the open, like feeling like a deer among wolves. And then here's you with your rescuing hand.
Rescuing hand. Okay, interesting.
Okay.
And she says, okay.
Okay.
She says, okay, in the most annoying way ever. Okay is like her conversational tick. She says, okay, okay. And I can't tell if it's ungay, okay, you're gay, or okay. It's supposed to be okay, but it just, the way she talks, it sounds like uga, uga. Okay, so I'm going to start skipping forward a little here. So the next thing is I ask her some gay question about what city is the most romantic city. Again, these are all stupid things I would probably never say in real life, but just demonstrating that you could pretty much talk about anything, no matter how lame or so-called cool you think it sounds, and get away with it. The important thing is not to have some cool subject, but again, to express your experience and to convey your person through the subject you're using. The subject is really the vehicle. Talking about the city is irrelevant. The real content is your view of romantic cities, how you express your questions. All that conveys who you are. The question is really irrelevant in this sense, or in this case. So we go through that. Then finally, I start stating I am stating interest indirectly, but I'm finally stating like a date scenario. I'm like, I like you a lot, and here's what I want to do. And then I kind of take her into, I give her an experience, which is the date experience, what I want to do. I want to take you on a picnic. I want to go flying kites. I want to go have coffee. I want to go have souffle. I want to have spaghetti. I want to twirl noodles. I want to suck on one end of the noodle and you suck on the other end and we meet in the middle for like a nice short romantic kiss. You know, things like that. So basically, when you're painting the picture of the experience for her, and this is the incentive part. This gives her the reason to respond to you, to meet your expectations. You want to date her, that's your expectation, but you have to give her the incentive. So this date scenario and all the things where you express your you express your experiences and convey your person in your experiences. These are the This is the incentive. This is the reason. This is the stimulus that gives her the incentive to respond to you and to meet your expectations. So let's see. Okay, wait, I need to skip ahead here. I'm going to start on the next one, the second half of the video here. Boom.
You say, you say, I want you to say, I feel like I can feel electricity every time you
Okay, so I say it, I could feel the electricity or something, and then I want her to say it, so I said, no, you need to say, you could feel the electricity in the air, just something retarded like that. It doesn't even have to make sense. I would never say to a normal person or to a person I'm talking to usually, hey, you feel electricity, unless I'm, fucking around or just having fun. But as you can see here, I'm not taking this super seriously. I'm saying you could feel the electricity in the air. Now, I can either mean it or not mean it. The point is I'm leading the interaction. That's the key point here, not how funny you are or these cute little gimmicky things you're saying. Those are irrelevant.
That's too soon.
It's buzzing. So I'm kind of making fun of the whole thing. I'm just saying, oh, it's too soon, sir. You're too forward. I'm kind of just screwing around, basically. not taking it too seriously.
I'm sure. That's you.
Okay.
They're like Rachel. They're like the short time we know each other. I feel like there's electricity in the air.
So I'm saying there's electricity in the air.
It's a little too soon. I don't know.
Wrong. Come here, man.
She's trying to play along and...
Do it again.
God damn, shut up. She's trying to play along and play act, but she's really terrible at it, so I'm like, this isn't meeting my expectation. This is retarded. Here, try it. Do it this way. So again, I'm showing disapproval. I want her to meet my expectations in a specific way. I want to have her approval, or I want to have her response, which is basically her approval, her like laughing, smiling, having a good time, being natural, not being like stiff and like she's reading off a script. I want her to have a good time, so that's kind of my expectation. So I'm showing her how to achieve that by demonstrating what a good response is.
Hear me, go ahead.
Buzzing. Electricity. Buzzing.
Not the retarded way.
So I tell her to play my part, and my part is, you're supposed to say like something like, the electricity is buzzing, the air is buzzing, and she just said, she's so fucking retarded, she just says buzzing, electricity buzzing. She doesn't even form a complete sentence, so I just show disapproval. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? That's stupid. So I go, oh, come on, like this, don't do it the retarded way, do it this way, right? Showing her how I wanted to do it.
Hey, the regular way, come on, do it again.
Do it the regular way, do it again.
It's buzzing.
The electricity is buzzing, it's flowing.
Sir, that's too soon.
Okay, so she kind of gets into a little more. I realize she's just too retarded to play along, so why not just go ahead and do it? So I play her part. I go, no, sir, it's too soon. So she's getting more open. She's getting more involved.
You must ask my father for permission to let Harry.
Again, I'm saying stupid things like, you must ask my father for permission to talk to me. I'm basically giving her the experience. I'm basically stimulating her, giving her incentive. Remember, she has to have a reason. So I'm giving her a pleasurable experience, which is I'm joking around with her. I'm creating, dating scenarios or possible things that will happen. These are all just like little stories or just like little off-the-cuff things. Basically, this is what you're conveying your person is in your practice for your expression. This is where this would all come in. Like when DKO is talking about cleaning his room and spiders attacking him. This is exactly where the part would come in, where you're making up all these little things, or you're basically just talking about these things in a conversational way, like you would talk to your friends. That's where all that practice comes in handy.
Okay. Rachel, I feel like I want to go on a romantic picnic with you, strolling, looking at seashells, waving at small children.
Okay, so I'm talking about things I want to do with her on a date. I want to go on a picnic with her. I said I want to look at small children. I want to look at seashells. These are all nonsense things. They don't have to make sense. You could write down your date scenario. That's fine, and talk about all the cool things you want to do. We have one of our students, Rob Show, used to talk about going on a Ferris wheel and eating a churro, and then some people were so mindlessly and some people had zero creativity in their bones, so they basically just copied him. I want to go on a Ferris wheel and eat a churro with you. Again, the point is to make up your own thing and practice your own expression. Don't copy people. I'm sure it's less daunting to have somebody else do something for you, and you've seen it work, so you think, oh, this is the magical thing that's going to work, churros and Ferris wheels. But you got to understand, churros and Ferris wheels are just as retarded as saying going on a picnic. It's not the actual line. If you're dumb enough to think the actual line is the thing that's making the magic here, you have no idea what's going on. It has nothing to do with the line and everything to do with the delivery and your expression. You're conveying your experience and what you're doing. We could say, I want to take you to a bumper car ride, or you could say, I want to take you stamp collecting. You should try something that's inherently boring, like stamp collecting, and make it interesting just by conveying your experience with that. Don't try to pick fun things to do. Try to pick boring things and make them fun by your expression of them. Like, for instance, I want to take you stamp collecting. I want to look for the George Washington stamps and the Abraham Lincoln stamps. I want to look for bizarre stamps that nobody else has discovered before, and I want to discover them with you and have this sense of wonderment. Oh my gosh, we just discovered the stamp together. This is so romantic. Something like that. It's totally stamp collecting to me. If somebody told me, let's go stamp collecting, I'd punch them in the face. It just sounds retardedly boring. But if I'm selling stamp collecting to another person I want to go out with, well, then it's going to be interesting just by default because I'm saying, hey, it's interesting. I'm going to portray it as interesting. And all I have to do is just add in my perception of how I would make stamp collecting fun if I was going to do it. If somebody forced me to stamp collect, this is the type of experience I want to have while I'm stamp collecting. And I would describe that to her and bring her into that experience. So she sees what's fun about stamp collecting. Just like some of you guys are nerds and like computers or you like comics. Well, it doesn't mean you have to give those up. A lot of people, in Vice magazine say, oh, don't talk about comic book collecting, don't talk about video games. That's all bullshit. What you have to do is convey that experience to her. If you can't convey video games to a girl, if you just say, oh, I want to play video games, she's going to think you're a nerd. Of course, she's going to think you're a dork, and that's going to work against you. But if you can talk about video games in a way that she can relate to, and you can bring her into that experience, then she can enjoy why you like video games. She can see why you're playing video games. If it's just a foreign activity to her, and she's just going to paint you as a nerd or a dork, so it's going to work against you. Then there are some activities that can be fun or not fun, like going to Disneyland. Let's say a girl is not into Disneyland. She's just not one of those people. And you want to go to Disneyland. She might say, oh, that's childish or that's lame. That's where you have to learn to manage your expectations. Now you have competing expectations. You have a girl who says Disneyland is lame, and you think Disneyland is cool for whatever reason. So now you have to disapprove of her expectation, which means you need to apply pain to that and restate or reintroduce your expectation about Disneyland. So she might say Disneyland is lame. You might ignore it and keep going on about how Disneyland is cool. Or she might say Disneyland is lame, and you might go, are you kidding me? That's retarded. The most fun people go to Disneyland. Disneyland has this ride, etc. You have a fun time. There's Mickey Mouse there. You talk to Mickey. So basically, you're applying pain, and you're disapproving of her expectation, which is Disneyland is lame, Disneyland's for dorks, Disneyland's for nerds, and you're showing approval for your expectation. You're saying, I love Disneyland. Disneyland's great. Disneyland's the best time. You can go there. You can be a kid again. You could see Mickey, you could see Donald Duck, you could talk to him, you could high-five him, you could punch him in the stomach, you go on the Matterhorn, you go down the rides, it's all scary and spooky. Disneyland's a totally fun time. So you can paint it as any way you want, depending on how you approve and disapprove of, or you approve of your expectation and disapprove of competing expectations. Here we go. Beep. Start.
Helping old ladies across the street. I feel like we'd have a romantic time together.
So I'm talking about all these cornball things I want to do on the date scenario, and I can see she's getting into it now because now she's going back and saying, no, sir, that's too soon. So now she's playing along. Now she's trying to joke with me. So that shows, oh, she's opened up. Good sign.
Too soon and too shy.
Much better. See how much happier I am?
So I validate that. I say much better. See how much happier I am. I show her how I'm enjoying it. That validates her. So that means I want her to continue that behavior. I'm validating her. Okay, so the rest is all just downhill from there. You get the idea. Okay, now I want to go over some of the posts from the students. So let's go straight over to conveying your person. Practicing conveying your person. Let's check in on Mother's Son. This is one of our newer students. Okay, and this guy is, basically his expression is terrible here. This is another problem with new students. They're just basically hard of hearing. First of all, this guy's on a cell phone, so it's very difficult for him to participate in the forums, without a real computer. I don't know how you read and respond to text on a cell phone, but I guess it's possible with the newer phones out there. And I would like to make this forum mobile friendly as much as possible. But I don't know if it's just typing on a keyboard or following directions or whatnot, but, I gave him some pointers about, your grammar. You gotta buy a dictionary. You gotta do whatever it takes to improve your grammar, especially browsers nowadays, you don't have that benefit because you're on a cell phone, but if you're on a computer, you have a browser, it's got auto correction on there. There's word processors out there that can help you with your grammar. These are really kind of cheating ways to fix your grammar. If you have like an automatic spell checker, the best thing to do is have a dictionary on hand or an online dictionary to look up words you don't know and to be a competent speller. I mean, browsers nowadays will fix your spelling mistakes for you, but to some degree, you should be able to write and to construct sentences on your own without the help of a dictionary or a grammar checker. That's very important, especially when you're speaking. Writing translates into speaking. So when you can't spell, it's not as big an issue because nobody can tell when you're speaking if you know how to spell that word or not. But constructing sentences translate both when you're writing and when you're speaking. That sentence itself was terrible right there that I just said. But anyway, I'm trying to get across the gist that your grammar is important to conveying your person. When your grammar is bad, you are not only stifled in your expression, but people have a hard time following you, understanding what you're trying to say, etc. I'll give you an example. So I gave them these pointers, and they seem to have gone in one ear and out the other because the next His next entry is, it says, my day was very hectic. I just started a new job as a stock rep, and I had to run up and downtown. I'm assuming he meant run up and down space town, but I don't know, because like I said, there's a lot of grammar mistakes in here, and they just add up over time. Eventually, like if I had a struggle to get through this first paragraph, I wouldn't bother reading it. It's just too much work. Why read something that has such bad grammar that's hard to get through when there's a lot of other more interesting examples of expression that I don't have to struggle through just to understand what the sentence is trying to say. Okay, so we're going to try and make our way through this and basically just correct any of the mistakes and give them some pointers. I had to first go downtown to get paperwork for a direct deposit. If you don't know exactly what that is, then I'll explain. Misspelling on explain, not a big deal, but the sentence here is you're basically this is missing his experience. You're basically explaining, you're basically conveying information in this post, and it's really not that interesting. You're talking about explaining direct deposit. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Why you would bother explaining that, I have no idea. Okay, so you're talking about a system and paychecks, blah, blah, blah. There's more, blah, blah, blah. So he's wasting a whole paragraph explaining something that doesn't need to be explained. My day wouldn't have been hectic if it wasn't for my irresponsible, again, this word irresponsible, it's the worst spelling I've ever seen of irresponsible ever. Very important to, if you're spelling and grammar off, I would suggest even going so far as to, what we suggested to some students is to buy a grammar book and learn basic sentence construction, subject, predicate, verb, tense agreement, that type of thing. Understand that stuff will do wonders for your writing and also for your speaking. These are not small things. It seems like a lot of, the fact that you could go through school and not understand how to construct a sentence properly is mind-boggling, but it just shows that the poor state of the American educational system today. So you need to take care of that. As guys, you need to become competent. You're becoming competent right now. So one of those fundamental steps to becoming competent is learning proper grammar. And you can do this several ways. You can buy yourself a book. There's many online resources. Take the time, do whatever it takes to improve your education, especially where your grammar is concerned. Spelling is one thing, but learning how to construct a sentence is crucial. It's crucial to your communication and even to improving your expression. I mean, these are just basic things before we even get to including your experience in your expression. But if you can't even construct a sentence properly, who's going to even bother reading it? Who wants to talk to somebody who can't even speak properly, who can't construct a sentence that's cohesive, that's coherent, that is easily understood by another person? I'm not exactly sure how this guy speaks, but just going by the writing style and going by sentence construction here, I'd say it was pretty poor. Let's see here. Okay, I can't remember exactly what time I fell asleep, but if it's any indication, I woke up at 8, drifted off back. Who cares about all this stuff? This is just description. I'm bored. I'm already falling asleep. So this first paragraph is terrible. Again, I've given pointers before this in a post up above where I talk about reading other examples of good expression. But again, this is going in one ear and out the other. I'm not sure if it has to do with education, has to do with your poor listening skills, has to do with just not understanding clearly what we're getting at when we talk about conveying your personal experience in your writing. But these are some fundamental issues that are going to hold back your expression and that need to be addressed. Let's see here. I quickly got up, dressed, and got out of the house, blah, blah, blah. So this is just, again, all conveying information, total boredom, total nonsense. Don't care about any of this. Okay, so next paragraph. Knowing how public transportation can get delayed. I got to my bus, no delay. Estimating my correct time. Nobody cares about blah, blah, blah. The cops didn't mess up my schedule at all, just confused me and somewhat made me mad. I do know they have a job to do, like it or not. There's no rules they enforce that we have to follow. Okay, so this paragraph is so hard to follow because not only is the spelling terrible, but just the grammar in general is terrible. Again, this is not a knock on him personally, but again, it just goes to show that you need to have proper grammar. You need to understand how to construct a sentence properly in order to convey what you're trying to say to another person. In order for not only to keep them interested, but just if they have to work to get through your sentences, to get through your paragraphs, they're not going to bother. They're just going to skip. Okay, so this is good. He's finally talking about how he's angered by his experience. This is getting somewhat more into now his personal experience, but it's very stilted. It's very basic. To just say that you're angry, I mean, it's a very general statement. It doesn't talk about the degree of your experience, which is very crucial to an attractive expression. What does it mean to be angry? I don't know. I'm not you. But if you can't competently paint that picture to me, I'm not going to even care to know what you mean by you're angry or you're angered. It doesn't translate into it doesn't bring me into your experience of what it is to be angry. And if you can't do that in a competent way, if you can't construct a sentence competently, I'm not going to care. So I would say the major problem for you right now, for Mother Son 800, is your grammar. It's terrible. It needs to be worked on. So you need to do, before you get into conveying your expression, before you get into you conveying your experience in your expression, talking about your degree of your experience, you need to first work on the fundamentals, which is your grammar. You need to improve your grammar. So do what it takes. Buy a book about grammar. There's many online resources you can look up. Again, you're stuck on a cell phone, so I don't know how you're going to do that. There's the public library. If you don't have a computer, you can go to the library. There's many resources. You can go to bookstores. Spend the time. Do what it takes to improve your grammar. It's crucial. Not only to expressing yourself, but also even to practical issues like getting a job, doing something with your education, things that, where you're going to benefit from being able to express your ideas in a competent way so another person can appreciate them and can enter into your experience. This is going to benefit you in so many ways. If you don't have this down, you're going to be stuck. You're going to limit your options. So I'm not even going to get into any more of Mother Son because it looks like he's got enough things to work on. Let's move on to High School 101. All right, one of his first entries that I'm just going to read here. It starts off, I like the cover of the new book. It's white letters in a black box on a white background. Looks simple and efficient. The minimalist design belies the nature of the book, strictly functional with no frills. Okay, this kid, fucking retarded. He has no idea what he's doing, but he wants to sound intelligent, so he's just yapping fucking nonsense, hoping to get validation, hoping to get some approval from Professor Plum. But, of course, here's a perfect example. The book, we've stripped it down because we're changing the focus of it to make it more towards, we're trying to bring it around towards social interaction, and so we're stripping out the elements of feminism, which definitely play into it, but they aren't the focus. They're more like distractions, and they're not really necessary to be in the book. We're going to include some of the things from feminism on the forum that have to do with the problems created for you, for the things that inhibit you from having successful social interaction. But they're just not necessary for the book. So we're stripping it down, and we're also stripping the cover down. And we haven't really thought of a cover yet. We just kind of stripped it down, and we're kind of going over different designs. But already this kid has assigned meaning to something that isn't even there. Just because we took off all the interesting little words on the cover doesn't mean that this is the new cover. It just means we're just stripping it down. This is a starting point. But he's already assigned all kinds of crazy meaning to it. And he has a habit of making all these retarded assumptions. It's just like it's fucking hectic work to go through. Basically, like this is a person you have to unfuck. A lot of social interaction training has to do with unfucking you from bad information and bad concepts that you have. It's much easier to train a student who has no social interaction knowledge versus one who is full of assumptions and bad information. And they're basically trying to convey those assumptions and bad information to you. And part of my job is to basically unfuck you from all that. And that has to do with exposing dysfunction. And I think this also applies to a lot of students on here. A lot of you get discouraged when you're exposed as dysfunctional. And the major part of the problem is you actually think you're functional. If you're on this forum, you need to just basically realize that you're dysfunctional. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're here to learn social interaction. You're not already a teacher of social interaction. But for some reason, most of you like to pretend that you know what you're doing. And so there's a lot of problems that come in whenever your dysfunction is exposed. And there's a section on exposing dysfunction in the book, which is really crucial and valuable to those who understand it and to those who listen to it and get something out of it. You're going to be sorely disappointed if you think you're not dysfunctional. If you think everything's rolling along just fine, you just need one or two touches here and there, you're probably going to be disappointed the most. I know students have experienced this firsthand. Franchise, for example, has a great understanding of the theory of social interaction, but doesn't realize how dysfunctional he is. And, well, he does now to some extent, which is really good. But right off in the beginning, a lot of his problems stem from thinking he was functional and then having that dysfunction exposed. It's very painful. It's a very painful process to be exposed. The easiest thing to do to get past that is to realize, or to tell yourself, look, I'm dysfunctional. I'm on my way to becoming functional, but I'm not functional yet. If you assume you're functional and then you have one of your, you have something that you do that's dysfunctional and it's exposed, for instance, your grammar or your bad assumptions, or you're always wanting to get validation and not knowing what the fuck you're doing, like High School 101 has no clue what the fuck he's doing most of the time. He's making all these stupid assumptions. If you put stock in your competence and you're not competent yet, you're going to be more disappointed than someone who says, look, I'm dysfunctional. I made a mistake. I got corrected. I can keep going on now because I know I'm not functional yet. I made a mistake. You're going to do much better if you have that realization right off the bat. But if you're fooling yourself, if you're in denial, if you're trying to hide from the truth about your social interaction competence or incompetence, I should say, you're going to be more taken. It's going to be a bigger blow to you if you get corrected. For instance, a lot of you have been corrected on here by me, specifically like you're trying to convey a person. A lot of you are conveying information, and I'll tell you this, and you'll do it again. You'll repeat the same error, and I'll go, this is fucking retarded. Why are you doing the same thing? I just told you to not convey information, to convey your experience in your posts. And now you read that, and you think, oh, fuck, I fucked up. I can never do it. I keep failing. Well, the problem is you are fooling yourself. You think you're there. You think you've arrived. You think you understand social interaction when you really don't have a fucking clue. Again, this comes down to training. The more willing you are to train, the more willing you are to put in the time to do the work, the more successful you're going to be. And that shows in the students who are very successful. They put in a lot of work, and they've also listened. Those students that don't listen, this class goes at your own pace. You can be successful in a few months. You could be successful after a couple years. And some are still struggling, but at least they're going forward. You should never stop, basically. Any failure you have, it's just like, you got to think of it like Edison, who had 99 failures before he produced the light bulb. 99 fuck-ups. But you can either look at that as 99 fuck-ups or a 99-step process to produce the light bulb. And the same with your social interaction failures. You can either look at them as, woe is me, I'll never be good, I'm terrible, there's no hope. Or you can look at it as, look, this is just another failure and a step towards my social interaction competence. I'm not there yet. I need correction, and I'm going to basically keep going until I get it right. And you need to have that attitude. You need to have the attitude that you're going to keep going until you get it right. Not the attitude that I have 8 failures and I've all used up 6 failures. If I fail 2 more times, fuck it, I'm done. Or I'm trying to be perfect. This is me more along the lines. I'm more along the lines of the latter case where I'm like I'm only going to allow myself 1 failure or 2 failures at the most, and because I expect a lot from myself. So I say, if I fail 2 times, fuck it. I'm depressed. I'm not going to do it anymore. Fuck this. Fuck Plum. Fuck social interaction. I'll never get it right. Give up. Right? That's more along my mindset because I'm very demanding of myself. And I assume that's a lot of students out there. They have the same types of, either they're demanding of themselves or they're just fooling themselves that they're competent. And then when their dysfunction is exposed, their disorderly methods are exposed, they get really depressed. They get really down on themselves. They're like, I can't get it right. And again, the problem is you don't realize you're a fuck up. You got to realize you're dysfunctional. You're here because you're dysfunctional. If you're functional, you'd be teaching the class. You'd be giving these podcasts out. But since you're the one listening, you're already fucked. So you got to realize that. That's going to take a lot of pressure, performance pressure off of you. One of the cases that we saw, or one of the specific instances where you can see, where I've seen this is, for instance, last weekend, or this weekend, I should say, we had students come by, and one of the students was basically just asking the time. And asking the time is really nothing. You're not picking up the chick. You're not trying to attract her. You're just basically opening your mouth to ask the time. And the tough part is just opening your mouth. Nobody's going to yell at you. Nobody's going to scream at you. Nobody's going to give you really a bad response. At worst, somebody's in a hurry and they'll maybe sort of ignore you. But even that can be overcome by just asking it the right way. So it's just practice, just to basically open your mouth and getting comfortable talking and approaching strangers. But one student was having trouble even opening his mouth, and this is because he's putting too much expectation on himself. He's putting the expectation that, look, he needs to have a full-on social interaction with whoever he's talking to. And this is just a bad perspective. This is just bad planning, bad realization. This is not focusing on the goal. The goal is to ask people the time. If you can ask people the time, you've met your expectation. You've done it correctly. But if you're saying I need to ask the time plus hold a conversation with her, you're fucking up the goal. You're looking at it wrong. So a lot of this is just dysfunctional ways of looking at things. A lot of you aren't understanding the assignments. You're bringing your own bad, dysfunctional views to these assignments and to social interaction in general, and you're fucking up as a result. A lot of you aren't listening. You're not used to listening because it's understandable. You have very terrible teachers in school, classrooms, and jobs. Your bosses, they're all pretty much fucking terrible. They don't know how to force their expectations. They teach you bad habits. The teachers who were training you in high school are supposed to train you. There's no way you should ever have gotten out of elementary school writing the way you do. It's fucking terrible. And it just shows a lack of competence on the part of teachers. So right now in this class, we don't sugarcoat things. We don't tell you, look, Johnny, you need to be, you need a hug, you need this and that. No, we're basically just, we want to get the job done. If you fucking suck at grammar, we need to let you know you suck at grammar. You need to work on your grammar. If you suck at spelling, we need to let you know you suck at spelling. If you're not following directions, we need to let you know, look, you're not following directions. I said, convey your experience, not give me a fucking description about what the gas station looks like in 10 paragraph detail. The Shell station was orange. There was a blue 76 on the shells. All that is bullshit details. I don't need to know that. Yes, description is helpful, but it has its place. You're practicing conveying your experience in the description. A lot of you are forgetting this. And the reason why you're forgetting this is there's not a lot of pain applied. Too many classes, too many teachers apply pleasure. There's no pain element involved, so you're not learning things. You need a balance of pain and pleasure. The pleasure is to maintain my expectations. When you're meeting my expectations, I want to applaud you. I want to congratulate you. I want to bring you forward, so I'm applying pleasure at that point. Good job. Good effort. Here's a reward of some kind. When you're not meeting my expectations, you're not following directions, it means you're not respecting my instructions. It means you're not listening to me. You're not meeting my expectations. That's when I need to apply pain. So there's a delicate balance here of pain and pleasure, and it needs to be applied when it's merited, not just arbitrarily, not just, just because I feel like pain today and pleasure tomorrow. No, it doesn't work that way. When you merit pain, when you're violating my expectations, that's when I apply pain. I apply disapproval. I ignore something you said, or whatever forms that we've talked about, discussed in the ebook, that apply to applying pain to get your expectations met when they're being violated. Other instances, you are meeting my expectations. I need to apply pleasure. I need to congratulate you. I need to tell you you're doing the right thing, going in the right direction, etc. So, in both cases, these are merited things. These aren't just arbitrary things just thrown out there just because haphazardly or randomly. They have an order to them. And that's why there's a stable relationship with me and the students. Same with gravity. Gravity has extreme circumstances. The point I was trying to make with the students is like if you jump off a ledge and you're up high enough, gravity's going to kill you, right? That fall is going to be extremely detrimental to your health, most likely result in death. And it's a very extreme consequence. Death is probably the most extreme consequence you can think of. So, in a sense, gravity is the most dangerous thing around. But on the other hand, if you're walking across a bridge, you're not in fear of your life as long as you don't violate the laws of gravity, as long as you don't jump off the bridge. Because you realize that gravity is very stable. Its relationship with you is very stable because it is very consistent. It applies pain only when you violate it. And it doesn't apply pleasure, but the pleasurable side would be like you cross the bridge and make it across and, it's nothing bad happens to you. So I guess in that sense it would be pleasurable, but it's not really strictly pleasure. But the point is, gravity only applies pain when you're violating it. As long as you're not violating gravity, you're fine. You can have a perfectly stable relationship with gravity. That's why when you get near the edge of a bridge, the closer you get to the edge, the more fearful you become because you're worried about violating gravity. So you become fearful. That's a good fear. That keeps you safe. So when you get away from the edge and you're just standing on the bridge, you're fine. No fear because you realize I'm not violating gravity. Gravity's consistent. Therefore, our relationship is very stable. So in this way, I'm applying pain and pleasure to you to get my expectations met. Let's see, back to where what we were talking about. Okay, so here, high school 101 is a prime example of a guy who just does not pay attention. So needs a lot of pain, basically. Making stupid assumptions, not following directions, just basically all over the fucking place. And even he does this particular Indian thing, which I've noticed with Boggles. They'll even, since they haven't even gotten positive attention, they'll even settle for negative attention. So sometimes, he'll complain about this and that just to get negative attention, like the woe is me, poor me attention, or students will do anything they can sometimes to get that validation, that approval from the teacher. Sometimes they'll ask stupid questions or questions they already know the answer to just to get an approving remark from the teacher. Just what we call like fishing for validation, fishing for approval, that type of thing. We try to discourage that. We try to make your validation or your approval count, your pleasure count, and we try to make your pain count. We don't want either to be arbitrary or undeserved or unmerited. Okay, so back to what he's talking about. Okay, he's talking about the book cover. No idea what he's talking about. Just lays bare and tells it like it is. Obviously, the book cover is not telling anything, but he's just assigning meaning where there is none. I should keep it on my pillow so I could slowly absorb the information by osmosis. When I die, I will be buried with it. Okay, this guy's basically a nut job. I'm just fucking around with him. This is like cult mentality where you just absorb things and you love the person so much you apply meaning where there is none. Just like Michael Jordan, if you like Michael Jordan a lot, he comes out of the shoe line, you'll start assigning all kinds of value to things that aren't there. You say, oh, this shoe's worth $200 when really it's worth about $10. It was sewn in a factory in China. It's really not worth that much, but you valuing Michael Jordan makes the shoes valuable. So that's basically what's going on here. He's just assigning value to this cover where there really is none. But on the other hand, he's got some good. When he is paying attention, High School 101 has some good examples of conveying his experience in his descriptions, in his analogies, in the way he conveys his experience. God, that one bitch got under my skin. She's the only one who rudely told me she had no watch when I asked her the time. Sometimes I see her around campus. Okay, he's hallucinating in his mind. I hear about, he's creating dramatic events where there are none. Often as a dysfunctional person trying to practice social interaction, you make a lot of distortions. Bitches will be, dramatic bitches, events that you don't, there is no meaning. You'll start assigning meaning, just like he assigned meaning to the cover where there was none. He'll assign motive to people who have no motive when they're talking to him or don't have like this ulterior crazy motive that he's assigning them. Classic example was when we had a student, Houdini, who would go into bars and he would talk to girls and, I don't know what he'd say to them, something simple. And then, or he'd talk to, who would he talk to? There'd be guys sitting there at the bar and he'd call them meatheads. He has no clue who they are, what they're doing there, what type of person they are, but just because they work out or they're adversary, he considers them adversaries, so he'll call them meatheads and whatnot, and he'll just give everybody a distorted persona in his head when he has no fucking clue who they are. He has not interacted with any of them. So this is the same type of dysfunctional behavior where people use a lot of distortions which justify their own dysfunctional behavior. Like if you distort everybody, make them into a bitch or a meathead, it justifies your antisocial behavior. So there's a lot of ways in which dysfunctional people justify their bad habits, their bad social interaction, their social incompetence by using distortion, denial techniques that are similar to this. But in the meantime, he's also talking about she was cold as ice, rude as hell, wearing sunglasses all the time. Okay, so at least he may be distorting things, but at least he's the point of conveying your person is not the distortion part. That's incidental, but at least he's conveying his experience. She's cold as ice, letting us know what it's like to experience this distortion. She's cold as ice, so I feel cold as ice. Those type of things bring you into the experience of the other person, and that is the attractive part. That's the thing that you're trying to get across, is convey your person, how you experience things. So even if you're a crazy person, if you can convey that, that's attractive. It doesn't matter if you are crazy or not, but the point is conveying your experience, what it's like to be you. That is the attractive thing, not all these details. Granted, there are some times when it's okay to have a dry detail, like, you're going to the store. Well, it's helpful to know that you went to the store, where you're at, where this thing is taking place. If it helps the story, great. I shouldn't say if it helps the story. If it helps your expression, great. But if it doesn't help your expression, don't talk to me about it. For instance, who were just covering Mother Son 800, 500, whatever his name was. He talked about, hey, if you don't know what a direct deposit is, it's this, and he goes into detail about that. That's totally unnecessary. That doesn't do anything to convey your person to me. So why would you include it? I have no idea. Forget about including it. Include details, descriptions that support conveying your person to me. If it doesn't support it, if it has nothing to do with it, don't include it. How do you get to your experience, by the way? You got to talk about it in degrees, and the easy way to do that is to ask questions. Today I was the next entry by High School 101 says, starts out, today I was a recluse who never left the house all day, just studying and sleeping. You can ask yourself questions about that. What does it mean recluse? What's that mean? You never left the house all day. What's that like? Why did you not leave the house? And if you keep asking yourself why questions, why, you get to the meat of your meaning, of what you're trying to convey. And that's really what you want to get to when you're getting another person to relate to your experience. You want to get to the meat of your experience. You being a recluse is on the surface. That's not why you're a recluse. Why you're a recluse is important, not the fact that you are a recluse. So these details talk about your degree. They basically let people in and let people experience the degree of your experience, what it's like to be a recluse, why you're a recluse, what is the experience of being a recluse, how is that different from a non-recluse. Those type of details are crucial to painting the degree of your experience, and this is really what you want to get into. Okay, let's see here. Seeing them made me feel chaotic because they were a potent reminder of the disorder I'd been spiraling toward. Okay, so he gives a general sentiment here. He's trying to let you in on his experience. He says, seeing, I don't know what he's talking about, but he says, seeing them made me feel chaotic. Okay, made me feel chaotic. Well, the problem here is, okay, on one hand, it's good because you're not always going to be, as a person starting out in social interaction, you're going to work with adjectives. Chaotic, good, bad, tight, fast, sexy, great, super. These are general terms, and people can generally relate to them. They're not really that interesting because they don't convey a degree of a person's experience. Like if I tell you this cereal is great, what the fuck does that even mean? This cereal was great. Who knows? Because great could mean a billion different things to a billion different people. Unless I can paint to you what my particular experience of cereal is, great is a terrible word to use. Just like this made me feel chaotic inside. I guess if you have a general sense of what chaos is and you're not really concerned about conveying that, fine, but you're here to practice conveying that. That's exactly what you're trying to convey. So saying things are chaotic is a general word, which is fine if you're just conveying a general sense to somebody, but you want to practice conveying as much as possible the degree of your experience. What is the chaos like for you versus the chaos like for me? Does everybody experience chaos the same way? Is Bill Gates' version of chaos the same as your version of chaos? Is your room, for Bill Gates, chaos might be one of his programs crashed, whereas your version of chaos is your fucking room's a mess, your bills are all out of order, and you have bad credit, and you can't get a job, and you're about to kill yourself. Those are two different types of chaos. But if you just say, I feel chaotic, and Bill Gates tells me he feels chaotic, how do I know the difference? Again, we've gone over this a billion times before, and this is all talked about in ebook, but you guys aren't practicing it. It's going in one ear and out the other, and that's why I read these and I cringe. I read some of these entries, I'm like, this is fucking terrible. These guys are retarded. They're just not paying attention. They're not listening. Not reading the comments of other people. The worst thing you do is not just read your own entries, because I comment, and a lot of these comments that I leave on other people's entries apply to yours too. I'm just not going to be redundant and comment on every fucking person's entry. It's going to wear me out. So I'm just going to comment on things that I think are like prominent examples of problems or good things that you're doing in your writing. And I'll comment maybe on one person's entry who I think does a good example or bad example of this, and it'll apply to you too. So if you're ignoring that and not reading the other students' experiences, you're missing out. You're fucking up. You're just not paying attention in class, basically. If we were in a classroom setting, I'd throw something at your head. If this was my classroom, it wouldn't run like American classrooms. You wouldn't be sent to the principals. You wouldn't be able to sue me. I just come by with a ruler and smack you in the face or something like that. Because really, you guys are terrible because of the teachers you've had growing up. They didn't spend the time. They didn't apply the pain that was necessary to form you. Anything great is formed through pain. Anything, any athlete, any person who has a skill that's worth having has put in the time, has put in the effort, has put in the hours. They talk about the blood, sweat, and the tears, that generic, phrase you've heard. We put in blood, sweat, and tears. That's true. That applies to everything, where you build skill, especially social interaction, where you're building, where you're learning how to express yourself. That's developed over, years maybe, or, however much time you put in to dedicate to learn proper grammar, to learn spelling. Those things, if you didn't learn them in elementary school, it's time to catch up. It's time to start right now. It's not time to say, I'm too late, I'm too old, can't learn it. Fuck that. It's time to do it. Just do it. Just start anywhere. The problem is, a lot of the times you guys have goals that are like so fucking vast and far-reaching because you have no training, you have no organization. if you have no organization, everything seems daunting to you, it's because it is. You're fucking chaotic, so everything will seem daunting to you. Tying your shoelaces will seem daunting to you. You need to start small. You need to start with small little goals that you can accomplish daily. For instance, if your grammar sucks, you're going to have a small little goal that says, what can you do? Well, you can look up one word per day, or you can look up a word where you're reading a book. You should have a book that you're reading every day. You should be reading, give yourself a minimum like 20 or 30 pages, whatever you can manage, and make sure you keep that goal every day. And if you find words in there you don't know, look them up. Have a fucking dictionary sitting next to you and start looking them up. Start in little steps. Don't try to fucking master grammar in one day. You're going to disappoint yourself. This is, again, exposing dysfunction. If you think you're functional, you're going to be disappointed if you don't master grammar in one day. That means you're fucking delusional. You're fooling yourself. You're thinking, you know what? I'm bad at grammar, but I need a day's worth of work. And now I'm good at grammar. And if I don't get it, fuck. I'll never get it. That's a very distorted, dysfunctional view of your own competence, or again, of your own incompetence. So you need to have a realistic view, and you're not going to get that from yourself because obviously you're delusional. You got here in the first place. You're all distorted in your thinking. So I'm basically, for all intents and purposes, your father, your teacher, whatever you want to call it, your mentor, your Jewish big brother, your your stuffed animal. I'm here to give you some direction, to give you some expectations, and to start you on the ball and becoming competent. This will affect peripheral things like your education for sure. Expressing yourself competently to other people will involve your education, so by default, it'll force you to improve your education, which is the side benefit. But a lot of social interaction is dependent on a lot of other things that you're going to be developing at the same time. So this will have a lot of effects on all areas of your life, which is a good thing. The bad news is it's tough. But the good news is it's manageable if you put in the time and you make small little goals to hit, small little habits you're going to develop. If you're ambitious and you make big habits for yourself, let's say you can only read, you're a lazy fuck, you're a slob, you don't have any exercise, you don't have any hope, you're depressed, you're playing video games all day. You can only read 10 pages per day. That is fucking terrible, but for you that might be perfect. That might be the perfect start. You could start with 10 pages and then work on that for 6 months and then increase to 20 pages per day where you're reading. Whereas if you start out, you get all gung-ho and ambitious because you're so distorted and so disorderly, you're a fucking slob and you're like, okay, I'm going to read 100 pages per day and I'm going to learn grammar in 2 weeks. And you don't accomplish that goal, you're going to be disappointed because you didn't make a goal for yourself that you can accomplish. You need to have small enough goals that you can accomplish them, that they're attainable. So when you're making a goal, if you don't reach it the first time, make it smaller. If you don't reach that next time, make it smaller. Make it manageable to the point where you can do it. There should be some discomfort so you're going forward. Like, it shouldn't be 1 page a day because you're a lazy fucking slob and just don't want to do it. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to inconvenience yourself. If you make everything convenient for yourself, you'll only worsen the problem. Convenience is your motherfucking enemy. You should write that on your forehead in magic marker. Convenience is your motherfucking enemy. If it's convenient for you to do, it's your enemy. Convenience is what got you to be a fucking retard in the first place. Your education, it's convenient. That's why you're a fucking retard. Your telephones, your toys, they're all convenient for you. That's why you're a fucking retard. You can't socialize. Girls, they got phones glued to their faces. They're fucking retards. They are relying on convenience. If you didn't have cell phones, if you didn't have cars, your social interaction would be so improved because you'd be stuck in a community in a certain location and you'd be forced to socialize with those people day after day. So you would learn social interaction by being inconvenienced. But because you have Facebook, you have MySpace, you got Twitter, you have all these fucking things. And the irony is, these things are supposed to be for improving your socialization, but they actually have the opposite effect on you. They inhibit and handicap your socialization. So now instead of talking to people, you're fucking typing into a screen. You're fucking texting. You should be talking to people. You should be interacting. You should be looking at people face to face, eye to eye, and talking to people. Not fucking being in a chat room on MySpace, on Facebook, on Twitter. These things are all inhibiting your social interaction. Fast food, it's inhibiting your body. You should be fucking going out, buying your food. It's not only cheaper for you, it gives you an excuse to talk to people when you're at the supermarket. You shouldn't be buying in bulk. You should be buying just enough for like maybe a week's worth of food so you can start cooking. You should start learning how to cook. Inconvenience yourself. All these things not only will have this isn't the fucking Tony Robbins program, but these things are not only going to help your body, these are also convenient ways and excuses for you to get out and start socializing, or to at least be where there are people. It's a start. You got to start somewhere. And the first place you got to start is creating inconvenience for yourself. To create order, you have to exert energy, which means there's got to be pain applied. To build your body, you've got to go to the gym. You've got to get a job in manual labor. You've got to do something that applies pain to your body to build that muscle. To do anything where you're building something, you got to apply pain. You got to inconvenience yourself. So if you're going to build your social interaction skills, if you're going to build your social competence, you got to apply pain. You got to inconvenience yourself. If your life is convenient right now, if you're doing everything like to get the remote control in the right place for you, to get the phone you want, to get all your MySpace buddies in place, to make sure you got all the Hot Pockets in the fridge and the fucking TV dinners all set for the next year so you never have to get outside the house. All those things are working against you. All the conveniences in your life are working against you. Those are pleasures that are unmerited. You should be having pleasure when you're doing something to merit it, when you're doing something functional. That should result in pleasure. When you're talking to people, you're going to have a pleasurable experience. That's going to be the reward right there. So when you're inconveniencing yourself, you're applying pain. You're doing that for a long-term goal of getting pleasure out of the experience. Right now, these short-term bursts of pleasure, these video games that are fun to play but keep you inside, are inhibiting you from having long-term pleasure, inhibiting you from forming a relationship with another person, with your not only guys and girls, guys and girls, that is pretty much it, from developing your social circle, from meeting people, from forming relationships. All these things, all these conveniences are getting in the way of that. So you have to learn to inconvenience yourself. It's going to be painful because it should be painful. Pain is how these muscles are formed. Pain is how these skills are formed. You have to apply pain to yourself. This is called self-discipline. When you're a kid, you have parents. They spank you. They give you limits. Those limits are valuable for you. When you have limits, you have order. You create order by setting limits. When you don't have limits and you're just free for all, you have no order. You have chaos. You have all kinds of fucking problems. That's where you end up today. It's no coincidence that the majority of criminals are produced by single mothers, because single mothers are terrible at setting limits for their kids. That's why you need fathers. They set the limits. They have the authority. They represent authority and discipline. If you don't have those limits, you don't have that dad who sets authority and discipline for you, applies external pain, external discipline to you, you will not develop self-discipline, which is self-applied pain, self-limitation. Just like if your parents don't set limits on your eating and let you eat whatever you want, you eat fucking chocolate cake when you're a kid because it tastes delicious. Now when you grow up, you have trouble setting limits on yourself. You can't apply pain to yourself. You can't apply external discipline to yourself. So you have no self-discipline. As a result, you eat fucking chocolate cake and you weigh 500 pounds. Now you're a fucking elephant. You're rolling around town. You can't walk. So you need to learn right now to start inconveniencing yourself. So to start inconveniencing yourself, applying external pain so you can develop that self-discipline. You are the person applying pain to yourself right now. It's going to be much tougher. Your parents should have done this when you were younger. That's what makes it easier to develop self-discipline later on, is because they set the ball rolling. But your parents have obviously fucking failed at this, or I don't know what the circumstances in your life. Generally it's your parents, but I don't want to second guess. It's not even necessary. The point is, you don't have that self-discipline, so it's time to develop it right now in little steps. You're not going to develop self-discipline overnight. You're fucking fooling yourself. I know it's ambitious if you think you can do it, but you got to do it in little steps. Just start somewhere. Don't try to conquer the world in a day. Just start somewhere. Start little goals. Best to write it down. Write it down. Write it down. So it's concrete. If it's not written down, you're already disorderly enough where it's not going to be applied by you. It's not going to be followed by you. It's best if you have it written down. You can see it. You're accountable to it. If it's not written down, you'll imagine different things about it. You'll distort your goals in your head. There's any fucking number of ways you can get out of doing it. You're already good at distorting things for yourself. So don't stay in that habit. You're already in that habit. You got to break that habit. So it's time to start today. All right. I think that's enough for now. Okay. One last thing I want to add is never give up, never surrender. Okay. Basically, if you're training, you got to have a long-term view of this. You got to look at this as a marathon, not as a sprint. You're training to become socially competent. You're going to fuck up. You have to understand that you're going to fuck up. And you got to be ready to accept that. You got to accept that, look, I'm training. I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to continually fuck up until I get it right. Your goal is to get it right, not to care how many times you're going to fuck it up. Your goal is to get it right. So train for competence. Train for long-term competence. You want to be able to do this over and over and over again until it becomes a habit to you. Not just a one-time, it's not just a flip of a switch where you're suddenly competent one day and then next day you fuck up again. This is going to become a habit for you. So you're going to have to train repeatedly over and over until you get it right. So don't be discouraged if you can't get it right in a week. Don't be discouraged if you can't get it right in a month. Don't be discouraged if Plum feels like he's picking on you and he's singling you out. He's not. I look at you students as a group. Sure, some of you are worse off than others, but again, you guys generally have the same social interaction problems. It's just to what degree you're experiencing those problems. So again, don't give up. Keep practicing. Keep training. And just remember, bad boys, immortal words of wisdom.
If you stop feeling something for hot girls, that's bad. That's not good. That means you are gay.